In the Gospel of Matthew, John the Baptist says, I say unto you, that God is able of these stones to raise children unto Abraham. The name Abraham actually translates to the father of nations. It was Abraham's belief in God's words that counted him as righteous. Yet in Genesis chapter 17, we are introduced to a new covenant. It's interesting to note that this new covenant comes at the cost of human flesh. Similar today, we are under a covenant only made possible by the cost of the flesh of Christ. And when we enter into this covenant, we die to our flesh and are reborn in the Spirit. It's as if we are brand new people, just as Abram removed the flesh and received a new name by God. Welcome back to another episode of Ancient Echoes, man. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2025. Hope it's been a good one for you so far. My name is Bronson. My brother's name is Austin. And tonight we are going to be going over Genesis chapter 17. Kind of a shorter chapter, but it's still a good one nonetheless, man. So, Austin, bro, how are you tonight, man? What's going on with you?
I'm doing great. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see everybody back. This is the Genesis 17 commentary, and tonight we're going to be talking about the circumcision covenant. And what we're going to do is the same thing we do with every commentary video. We're going to go through the chapter, we're going to read it all, and then we're going to break it down line by line and pull out some really cool stuff in it. So let's go ahead and get into it, Bronson.
Let's do it, bro. All right, so here we are in Genesis chapter 17, King James Version. It's titled Abraham and the Covenant of Circumcision. And it reads, And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Therefore shall thy name shall no more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee, in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land wherein you art a stranger, and all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant therefore, you and your seed after you in their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep, between me and you and your seed after you. Every man-child among you shall be circumcised. And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 years old shall be circumcised among you. Every man-child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger which is not of thy seed, he that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 99 years old bear? And Abram said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought of his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the self same day, as God had said unto him. And Abram was 90 years old and 9 when he had circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the self same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, born in the house and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. And that concludes Genesis chapter 17.
That is a short chapter, man.
It sure is, man, but he does say a lot there. Some of it's repetitious, you and your seed, and you and your seed, and this is our covenant, but I feel like a lot is happening here. I mean, we get 2 name changes, Abram to Abraham, Sarai to Sarah, and then we talked about this before. There's only 12 people in the whole Bible who get their name given to them by God, and Isaac's one of them. So there's a lot of names going on. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what about Joseph Smith?
If you guys watched our last Genesis commentary about Ishmael, we covered a section that was written by a Mormon. And they had like the first 12 were all biblical, and you get down to the bottom, it says Joseph Smith was given his name by God. As we investigated a little bit, you look down and he actually inserted himself into the book of Genesis. Yes. It is wild.
Wild.
So sorry, a little bit of humor there, but if you haven't watched, it can be misleading. Now this whole chapter is a call back to our Abraham and the Covenant video. Mm-hmm. Because we covered most of this here. The main thing it seems that is added here is the circumcision.
Right. And which chapter is that? 16, where we looked at it, where Abram initially gets his, or it's 15. Chapter 15.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah, and then if you haven't seen that episode, man, it's a really good one. Also makes an incredible correlation between the sacrifice ritual that Abraham does to something where God was trying to send a message. I won't get too deep into it, but man, it's worth checking out. Really cool episode.
Check out all the Genesis commentary stuff. It's all got some really good stuff and some nuggets in there.
They're good.
There may be some stuff you don't agree with us on in there too, and that's fine. But go check them out. You'll find some new stuff in there, and we bounce ideas off of each other. Especially in those early videos, man. Those are really, really good. They're long, but we're bouncing a lot of ideas. So if you guys like those are good. Now let's get into this. When Abram was 90 years old and 9, so he's 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him. So this is 13 years, according to scholars. This is 13 years. So yeah, I guess it would because of
Ishmael.
Ishmael, yes. So 13 years since the last appearance that we know of in Genesis 15.
Right. Interesting to know that the very first words he says is, first of all, he introduces himself as always. I am the God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. Yeah. Be thou perfect. It's an interesting instruction that God gives quite often in the Bible, especially when he starts talking about this magical word here, this covenant. And you and I were talking about this before we hit the live button, and this covenant here, it seems to be that it is in reference to his seed. I will multiply thy seed, exceedingly, but it also is in reference to the land that he's going to be inheriting. Father of many nations, and again, there's a little bit of repetition here, but so I'll make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. We all know that famous song, Father Abraham. Neither shall thy name be called more Abraham, but thou shalt be called Abraham.
Now, let's look at the difference between the definition of Abram and Abraham.
Sure.
So it's changing from Abram here, which is like exalted father, right?
Yes, yeah. Abram means exalted father, which is what he has been. I mean, he's already been, known by God. And then when you get to Abraham, it becomes the father of a multitude, a chief of the multitude. Really going from just an exalted guy, the exalted father, to all of a sudden now he's the father of many nations, which has been promised to him basically since the first time we hear about Abram, since he comes from Haran and makes his way down. Before he even gets into Egypt, we've already heard that this is going to happen. you're going to get a nation, and it'll be like this, the sands of the sea and the stars of the sky, and it's been promised to him.
I wonder if that exalted father title, since Terah was the chief idol maker, gave him that name Abram. I wonder if exalted father is a callback to one of the pagan gods.
You gotta wonder that. Yeah, you gotta wonder that. That's a good point. I haven't never thought about that before.
Because Abram's father was a devout pagan.
Yeah, no doubt. Chief idol maker. And we did a really cool episode about that where we discussed about him possibly being the idol maker for Nimrod.
Yeah, that's an Abraham in the House of Idols.
Yeah, great show. Great show. Because naturally, Abram's father would have been well aware of that, obviously.
Right. So, exalted father, that may actually be like a name for Anu that they used.
Is it Jubilees that gives this odd sign in the stars to take place when Abram is born? So I know it's very similar to like the Christ situation where Nimrod is killing children.
I believe that's in Jasher. I could be wrong.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that, like I said, I could be wrong. Sometimes I get Jasher and Jubilees mixed up, so that could be wrong. But we did read through that when we were doing the study for Abraham of the House of Idols.
Right. So if there was some type of, not saying it isn't true or that it is true, but if there was some type of cosmological event that took place during the birth of Abram, I wouldn't be far off to assume that his dad would have seen that as some type of sign from the gods and consider naming his child something like that, something that would pertain to deities. Very interesting. So we continue on down with Genesis 17, and we see, I will give unto thee thy seed the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Now, this is when we start to see things that change a little bit, when he says unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, you and the seed after you in their generations, this is my covenant, every man-child among you shall be circumcised. And this is where the game starts to change a little bit. Whereas we were talking before we went live here, every time we see Abram having some type of relation with God, animals are being sacrificed. Blood is being, poured on some type of altar, or in the case of, Genesis 15, where we have this odd situation where God shows up as a burning lampstand or a lantern or something. There's always animal sacrifice. Even in the case of Melchizedek, of course. Yet somehow or another, for some reason or another, now in this new covenant, which at the time this would have been the new covenant of the day, there's human flesh that is now being cut. There's human blood that is being drawn, not on an altar that we know of. There seems to be no ritualistic cutting of the flesh here. It just seems to be that on the 8th day, a man-child among you shall be circumcised. And it is a token. It is a token of the covenant between me and you.
And when it says token there, it's like a sign. It's a mark of it. It's the It's the symbol of your willingness to partake in the covenant.
Right. Proof in the pudding. You know what I mean? It's the thing. That was a horrible joke, and I'm really sorry. But what's interesting here is I recently became a father, and Connor, my wife and I, she and I were taking these birthing classes because she went, natural the majority of the way through the pregnancy. And so we were required to take these birthing classes to do the things that, she wanted to do, a home birth and, et cetera, et cetera. And we learned during that class that vitamin K is something that the human body naturally produces. And what that vitamin K does for your body is it allows your blood to coagulate. So if you get cut, the blood dries up and blood doesn't come out. Not, assuming that everyone knows that. I'm not trying to be condescending, but just in case you didn't know, that's what vitamin K does. But what I found was very interesting is that the human body does not naturally produce vitamin K until the child is 8 days old. So if anybody were to have been circumcised before the 8th day of their life, they would have bled to death. They would have bled out. Did you know that? I did not know that until we had the baby.
I knew that from an old pastor said that one time.
Really? Yeah, man, that is just amazing to me. Amazing. I don't know what that means or what type, whatever. I mean, it could mean literally nothing at all. But
well, as far as meaning goes, I mean, that's pretty crazy that it's like that. It shows that you have a creator that understands how his creation works. I mean, that's awesome in itself. It doesn't need any extra symbolism to be incredible.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. But I thought I'd throw that in there because I thought that was very interesting. That was the case.
That is a really cool fact.
Yeah. But the fact that this is a covenant that starts requiring human flesh is it's astonishing. Because you don't see it again. There's no more covenant like this up until the flesh of Jesus Christ was crucified. For you and me and everybody else. Although circumcision never went anywhere, it's still. But in covenants that come after this, with the Levitical priesthood, it's all animal flesh. That is required for the atonement of sins. And here we don't see anything along the lines of atonement of sins. All we see is that this is a sign between you and me that we're in this deal together. You circumcise, I give the land, and your seed is multiplied exceedingly. Am I missing anything here? That's the deal.
No, that's the deal.
That's the deal, man. It's just interesting. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know why it is or why God chose to do it that way. But it's interesting nonetheless. So, he that is born of thy house and he that is bought with thy money, everybody's getting it. My covenant shall be in your flesh. It's interesting. I don't know if perhaps it's a thing that it's in your flesh now. So every time you look at yourself or whatever, you know that you're in a covenant with God. I don't know. Right. It's whatever. I don't know why it's not with women. It's just with men. I mean, he could have had you just prick your finger. I'm not sure what that's all about, but there's a reason. I just don't know what it is. And it's such a big deal that those that are not circumcised.
When I was younger, the way it was explained to me, because I always had questions about this too.
Sure.
The way it was explained to me is that God understood it was for a cleanliness type of thing, because you can get diseases and stuff, and
sure,
you get stuff trapped in there, obviously.
Right.
But it was also a thing that you were giving a part of yourself, and also when you are circumcised, you lose a substantial amount of sexual pleasure from intercourse.
Right.
And that they were giving something up to be in the covenant. Like they were sacrificing that to be in the covenant.
I see.
And like, I don't know that is true, but that's something that has been passed around for a long time. And since we don't have any definitive, like, this is why he said to do that, other than it's a token of the covenant, that's the only other thing that I've heard ever about that. So throwing that out there, take it for what it's worth.
We know that God causes people to be peculiar, and compared to the rest of the world at this time in the world, that was a very peculiar thing to do. You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone else that was doing that. So very interesting. And it's so important to him that those that don't do it, the soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. It wasn't something that he was playing around with. So that was with the man. That's Abram. That's with Ishmael, Isaac, and all the other men, even the purchased ones. Then we move on to Sarah, where he says, God said unto Abraham, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And we saw that Sarai means princess, but
let's
Sarah
means... for everybody.
Yeah, sure, let's do it. We'll pull it up. Sarai, it means princess. The original name of Sarah, the wife of Abram, which is cool, princess. When she changes it over into, or he changes her name over to Sarah, the name now means noblewoman, which doesn't seem to be that much different. You have nobility, royalty, princess. Not too much different at all. It begs the question, though, why the name change? What's the point?
I don't know.
I don't either. I've got some speculation we'll get into at the end of the episode here, but
I wonder if it's both of their names, she's princess, so not Sarai as much as Abram being exalted father. Their names almost have like a a prideful undertone to them.
That's a good point.
It's true. Like I said, I'm reaching here because I'm not sure about the name for Sarai to Sarah. Why God would change it, but yeah. I'm not sure, because I mean, if it was like changing it to something to mean mother of many or something like that, I would understand.
Right.
But just princess, the noblewoman, noblewoman has a much less of a lofty, at least to me, than princess.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
Me too. Yeah. Seems a little more regal, a little more almost professional, like a paper title, you know?
Right.
Interesting. I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born of him that's 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? I love that Abram is always pushing for his son here, bro. Like, you know what I mean? He's always pushing for Ishmael. Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Look at this guy. You see this guy? He's 13. He's a good kid. Why don't we just use him? And we're gonna get into that here in just a second. We're gonna tie in some more books and talk a little bit about Ishmael and why God decided to do what he decided to do. God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. So
can we go to Genesis 17, 18 in NLT? I like the way that they have that there.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Here's Genesis 17, 18 in the NLT, and it reads, So Abraham said to God, may Ishmael live under your special blessing. Man, I'm telling you, isn't that just something else? It tugs at your heartstrings, man. If you got a string or two, it's gonna pluck them. Hey, he didn't ask to be born into any of this, man. You know what I mean? Right. He's just here, and his dad's constantly just being like, God, please, you know, what's up with Ishmael? And he does say, you know, I hear you. As for Ishmael, I will bless him also, just as you has asked. I will make him extremely fruitful. And
the best part is this. So Abram said to God, may Ishmael live bless him, but God replied, no.
Yeah.
Sarah, your wife will give birth to a son for you. You will name him Isaac, and I will confirm my covenant with him and his descendants as an everlasting covenant. As for Ishmael, I will bless him just as you have asked. I will make him extremely fruitful and multiply his descendants. He will become a father of 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But he is not for the special covenant. So that's I just think it's so much more directed to the point. No. That's for Isaac. You're going to have him with your wife. He's going to have the covenant. Ishmael is going to be taken care of. 12 princes will descend from him, but no. That's for Isaac. And he's already covered that before. Abraham keeps going back to the same thing with God every single time. God keeps saying, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Right. And it's what he's been saying from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? He's been saying, you know, I'll provide a seed for you. I'll provide a seed for you. And we went over this in the other episode that, you know, they took it into their own hands, and it happened, you know. All right. On that very day, when God finished off speaking with Abraham, on that very day, Abraham took his son Ishmael and every male in his household, including those born there and those that he bought, and he circumcised them all. Every one of them, including himself and Ishmael. Now, I'm sure that was a long night. And both Abram and his son Ishmael were circumcised on the same day, along with all the other men and the boys of the household, whether they were born there or bought as servants. All were circumcised with him. Now, this is something that going into the book of Galatians is where we're going to head into next.
Right.
This is something that I couldn't help but to bring up. I've brought it up a handful of times on the show because this is, it changed my life. It changed the way I looked at the Bible. Here in Galatians 4:24, Paul looks at this certain scenario and he says, which things are an allegory? And we're going to go ahead and read just from 4:21, if that sounds good to you. Galatians 4:21, Paul says, tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? For it is written, Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, Ishmael, the other by a free woman, Isaac. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise. Okay, and we had somebody comment earlier, was like, I can't watch your videos because you talk to us like we're dumb. I'm doing my very best. I do not mean to condescend, but just in case there are people here that are unfamiliar, and we're just going to talk to everybody like as if we don't know, or that if we are disagreeing on a point, I want to make my point that I'm reading this from my perspective in a way that is clear and you can understand where I'm coming from. So he was of the bondwoman, was born after the flesh. I would read this and say after the flesh would be between the intimacy between Abram and Hagar, and this was something that was desired by the mind, by the flesh, not of a spiritual revelation, which Isaac, on the other hand, was brought forth through a promise of God, where Ishmael, unfortunately for his sake, was not. Here, Paul says these things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, which is interesting. The one from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. So it's interesting that Ishmael being the son of Hagar and Isaac being the son of Sarah, we have one of the greatest biblical scholars of all time telling us that these things are an allegory. The NLT calls it an illustration. For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, for the desolate hath many more children than she which hath a husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of the promise. That's those of us who have received the promise of Jesus Christ. We have received his gift. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. Nevertheless, what saith the scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not the children of the bondwoman, but of the free. So this whole thing about Isaac being here is, according to Paul, this is an allegory. It's symbolism. It's prophetic metaphors for Jesus Christ and the new covenant coming in, and that Ishmael is the covenant of the Levitical priesthood. Is there anything you want to add to that before we move on?
No, let's go ahead. That's good.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. So cool. So right here in 427, whenever you see "for it is written," again, I do not mean to condescend. There are some people that come and find these videos and they are not read the Bible all the way through. And so this is just for anybody here. Whenever you see "for it is written," pay very close attention to what comes after that, because he's saying all this information I'm bringing you right here, I didn't come up with it myself. It is right here. One of my favorite verses in Isaiah says, "Look ye to the law, shall not all these things come to pass?" Which is incredible, because Isaiah is saying, I was able to read the first 5 books of the Bible, and I'm able to do all this prophecy just from those 5 books, that's a statement and a half. Isaiah 54:1, "Sing, O barren, that thou didst not bear. Break forth into singing and cry aloud that you did not travail with child, for more are the children of desolate than the children of the married wife." So this is an amazing chapter. I'll read through the whole thing if you want me to, because I think it's a great chapter. This to me is the promise of Jesus Christ unto his people, and it's in prophetic terms. "Enlarge the place of your tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of your habitation. Spare not, lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded."
Hold on one second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You put emphasis on it, but let's really break that down. "For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall" what?
Inherit.
Not dominate, not destroy, inherit.
There you go.
So, the seeds are what? As one, right?
Grafted into the olive tree.
Grafted in, right here in Isaiah. This is Old Testament. This isn't Paul.
Right.
This isn't John. This is Isaiah.
Right.
Just want to point that out. From the very beginning, this was the plan.
Absolutely, it was the plan. And we can see it was the plan since Ishmael and Isaac.
Right.
Isaac is definitely representative of Jesus Christ. Ishmael would be representative of the Levitical side. You want to call that Jews? That's a fair statement to make. So yeah, inherit. We're of one tree, not two gospels. We're of one. Very nice. I'm glad you pointed that out. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed. This should bring you guys. I mean, it brings me so much confidence. I love this. This is like God like doing a hoorah speech for us, man. Before we even got him, it's just amazing. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed. Neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth. Thou shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood any more. For thy Maker is thine husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth shall he be called. For the Lord hath called you as a woman forsaken and grieved in the spirit, and a wife of youth, when thou wast refused, saith thy God. For a small moment I have forsaken thee, but with great mercies will I gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for just a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have mercy on thee, saith the Lord God thy Redeemer. For this is as the waters of Noah unto me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah should no more go over the earth, so have I sworn that I would not be wroth with thee, nor rebuke thee. The waters of Noah destroyed everything and created it all anew with, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. And now he's saying the same thing. These waters are going out. I'm changing it all. It's all going to be changed forever when Jesus gets here. And boy, did it change. For the mountains shall depart and the hills will be removed. But my kindness shall not depart from thee. That's us he's talking to. That's awesome. Neither shall the covenant of my peace be removed, saith the Lord that hath mercy on thee. O thou afflicted, tossed with the tempest, and not comforted, behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires. I will make thy windows of agates, and thy gates of carbuncles, and of the borders of pleasant stones. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Ooh, bars. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. This is an everlasting promise, bro.
Let's hear that one more time.
Sure. In righteousness. Sorry, go ahead.
No. That's read with it. Those two right there together.
Yeah. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror it shall not come near you. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall for thy sake. That's just amazing, man. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me. Dude, this is a letter to you and me and to all the other people out there. Before Christ even came here, he's letting you know, like, this verse here, this famous verse, that's for us, bro. It's so cool, man. I'm so glad Paul put that quotation where he's at. You are not the children of the bondwoman, but you are heirs to the free. That's us, man. And I think it's so interesting that I'm going to go out on a little bit of a rope here, but I think it's so interesting that Abram and Sarai both receive new names when this happens. And just like you and I and everyone else who chooses to accept the free gift and offering of Jesus Christ, we put off our old man, we become anew. Our old sinful man dies and we become born again into a new body, into a new spiritual life with a circumcised heart, not a circumcised flesh, but a circumcised heart. And I would like to believe that Abram and Sarai receiving their new names is some type of prophetic symbolism that when you and I accept the gift of Jesus Christ, we become new people with a new name written down in the book of life, that we're able to make it into the new world.
If you look over into Revelation, we covered this some in the Satan's Little season video is that we're
Right.
all given a new name.
Yes. Yes.
And
Let's look
given
that
a
up. Go ahead.
God prescribed name that only we can understand.
That's right. Here we go. Anyone with ears to hear. This is Revelation 2:17. Anyone with ears to hear must listen to the Spirit and understand what he is saying to the churches. To everyone who is victorious, I will give some of the manna that has been hidden away in heaven, and I will give to each one a white stone, and on that stone will be engraved a new name that no one understands except the one who receives it.
Yes.
Wow. I never put those two things together. Very nice. And here in 3:12. Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead and read it, man, and then we'll jump back to something else. I want to show that connection in Psalms, and then I sent an image to the email that I'd like you to pull up, and before we close out, just to kind of show how all these connections work.
Beautiful. Revelation 3:12. All who are victorious will become pillars in the temple of my God, and they will never have to leave it. And I will write on them the name of my God, and they will be citizens in the city of my God, the new Jerusalem that comes down from heaven from my God, and I will also write on them my new name. That's just amazing.
Right. All right. So let's go back to Galatians real quick.
Sure.
And when you go to Galatians, let's do it in the NLT so they can see this, since we're referencing New Jerusalem anyways.
Galatians 4 in the NLT.
Yeah. Let's come down where it talks a little bit about New Jerusalem.
Yes. Here?
Yeah. Is the heavenly Jerusalem. The other woman, Sarah, it's phrased a little different in the KJV, but here in Galatians 4:26, but the other woman, Sarah, represents the heavenly Jerusalem. She is the free woman, and she is our mother. So represents, I believe it says, represents Jerusalem above, is what it says in KJV. So we're talking about the New Jerusalem get new names. Abraham and Sarah get new names, and they're being referenced here in Galatians 4 here in the New Testament. And then it's also calling back and saying that Sarah is also an allegory to the heavenly Jerusalem where we get new names.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Now, let's show a little bit, just so we can show how everything connects here. Let's go to the section that we talked about being a callback to in Isaiah. I believe it was 54:4, where it just talking about forget the mistakes of my youth and all that. Yeah, if you read that one more time, then let's jump over to Psalm 25 just to show that connection. That's like a callback to a psalm.
Yes, Isaiah 54:4. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood anymore. And then Austin made the correlation that right here in Psalm 25, yea, let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Let them be ashamed which transgress without cause. Remember not the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions, according to thy mercy. Remember thou me for my goodness sake, O Lord. It's amazing.
Almost like in Isaiah, that God's almost responding to this prayer in the psalm.
Yes.
It's like, I will not remember. Whenever, whenever Jesus, I will not remember the sins of your youth. You know what I mean? If you're praying this song to me, I'm answering it to you right here. You know what I mean? Fantastic. Just absolutely.
Dude, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's, go ahead.
I was going to say, pull up the email real quick.
Yeah.
And we just kind of connected all these verses, and the concepts are all the same. The Genesis passage at 17 leads right into Galatians, which leads right to Isaiah 54. And it's just a fantastic, it's a fantastic concept to show how everything that happened in the Old Testament, which it says in the Bible, is to be an example, like a type and a shadow for us today.
Yes. It says, I declare the end from the beginning. It's just amazing. All the way back thousands and thousands of years ago with Abram and Sarai, we see all this symbolism for Jesus Christ at the very end. It's just from them to Psalms with David all the way up until Isaiah. But that's right at the end of Jerusalem before Babylonian captivity and Hezekiah. And then all the way into Paul, where he's preaching to the Galatians. He's given us, the message and saying, hey, check this out. If you were to read Genesis and Psalms and Isaiah, you get this. It's amazing. The whole book is just incredible, man. Wow, check that out. So what exactly are we looking at here?
This is a visual representation of all the cross references in the Bible, going book by
Golly.
book. Yeah, you see that telling the end from the beginning, and
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Honestly, I believe it. I believe every line. In my experience of reading it from cover to cover, the handful of times that I have found dozens and dozens and dozens of them, and a lot of times they're broad. You know what I'm saying? Where they're saying, "For it is written," or Jesus is telling the Pharisees, "Go and look ye to me." What is it? I would have mercy and not sacrifice. Learn you what this would mean and whatnot.
right.
But that's just wow. That you can't tell me the book's not divinely inspired. Nobody is that correlated over, how long was it written? Thousands of years, if you're going by the narrative, thousands of years. That's just amazing, bro. You think you know something, man, but you just want to master that book.
It's mind blowing. Yeah,
it is,
and
man.
as you go through, you can take other things. There's a couple that I was like, let me just let it go, because we'll go off on a side trail and lose the main point here.
Right.
But yeah, that was such a good find on your end about Galatians, and then tying it back to Isaiah 54. It's just such a good book, and I love it, man. Yeah, being able to chop it up with you and go back and forth and find different things within the passage. Usually we can find some really, really, really deep stuff, but this is pretty cut and dry here.
Yeah, it's a good message.
Yeah, pretty cut and dry here, guys. Not a whole lot of clips and videos going around about old Genesis 17. Not a whole lot of people having a whole lot of interesting discussions on it. I think this right here is about as deep as we could take it.
But it's a good one. I mean, it's a little different than Ancient Echoes normally goes. Normally we've got something crazy, something spicy, some little twist.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with. I think we've done something like 40 videos on Ancient Echoes so far, and this is the first one where we've just said, hey, let's talk about Jesus for a minute. Talk about redeeming power and the promise he made to his people and what it means for us to all the symbolism that's there just for us. A lot of times people talk about, well, this chapter's for the Jews or this is for the whatever, but what we discussed tonight, it's one gospel, and you said it yourself in a really great way tonight that you will inherit the Gentiles. We're in here with the promise with you guys. Shema Yisrael, right? Or behold, listen, Israel, our God is one. We have one God.
Right.
And it's we are all one body.
People need to remember that.
It's true. It gets lost sometimes. It does. It gets lost sometimes. No, we're the chosen of God just as much as
it gets
anybody
lost
else
on purpose, bro. It gets lost on purpose. Dispensational theology was supposed to confuse everybody, and it did. That's why nobody can get a grip on what's going on in Revelations, because they're like, oh God, but I was told this, and this is supposed to jump over here, and I'm supposed to divide it here, and this over here, and multiply this, and all these days.
Right.
What about the days and the times and half the times and what?
Right.
But Jesus said he only come for the lost sheep of Israel, and then you're just
it's confusing.
Everything is just contradicting. It's just no way this could be real, and people set it down.
Right. Exactly.
And that was done on purpose. That's done on purpose.
He's not the God of confusion.
He's not the God of confusion. It's not that complicated. He's been telling you from the beginning. But like we see here in 17, in Genesis 17, Genesis chapter 15, Abraham keeps being like, well, what about Ishmael? Well, what? And God's like, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
I said you're going to have a child with your wife named Isaac. No, that's why I wanted to go to NLT. No. Yeah. And it's the same way with this type of deal, man. It was done on purpose. It's done to confuse. It's done to bring confusion, but it's not. It's been the same gospel since the very beginning. Different covenants, for sure.
Right.
Same gospel from the beginning. You saw it in Isaiah 54 there. You're going to inherit the Gentiles. We're going to become one. They're grafting in. All the things that we talked about.
Right.
So it's confusion on purpose to drive people away from the Messiah and to drive people away from the truth of things, and to cause confusion. Like even the most hardcore Christian person has some confusion, especially about the end times, because dispensationalism has just been one. through the Scofield Bible, just would have been one of the most awful things that's happened to to Christendom.
I think so too. Yeah, the dual house theology makes things really, really difficult. When you see it in Ezekiel, he makes one stick. You see it in the New Testament. It's one tree. He tells you, those that were taken out can be put back in if they choose to receive Jesus Christ, and you that were put in, if the original was taken out, if the original was taken out, you too can also be taken out. So be careful and don't be braggadocious. Is that a real word? Don't be don't be braggadocious towards the Jews.
It said yes, you're grafted into the tree, but don't forget the roots.
Yes, right.
Yeah. I think that's verbatim what it says. It's close to verbatim in modern English, right? Depending on if you're in the King Jimmy or not. But it's been so horrible, man. But going back and looking at this is why it's so good to go through the Genesis commentary and tie it into these ideas, because we're taking from Genesis to Galatians, then Galatians back, just like all of those arches and fields, crossbars, back to Isaiah in the Old Testament. And then we took Isaiah back to a little further in the Old Testament, the Psalms, to show, hey, this is a callback to this. Hey, over here in Galatians, what he's referencing is in Genesis, but he's also pulling something from Isaiah right there in Isaiah 54. Yes. Paul taught Torah, bro. He knew his stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's a fact.
Scholar. He's a scholar. A scholar. And really, to understand Paul, I mean, we've heard this for years from people that are actually, really, really intelligent people within the Christian community, is like, if you don't understand the Old Testament, you're not going to understand what Paul's talking about.
No, not a chance. You'll get a surface level, but if you really want to get into it,
yeah. But the thing is like Peter said, I'm worried that people are going to take what Paul's saying and take it out of context, and oh boy, have they? You have to understand these Old Testament concepts and understand, especially in the Torah, to go and look at Isaiah. I mean, really, the whole thing, Torah and the prophets, for Paul to make sense to you the way he's supposed to make sense to you. Yeah, I believe this is the beginning of Romans. He said, now this is for people. Is it Romans or Galatians?
It's Romans 7, where it says, I speak to those that know the law.
That know the law, right. Mm-hmm. So I speak to those that know the law, and then he starts to speak. Now, if you don't know the law, which is the Torah, if you don't know that, and you don't read it, you don't study it, and you don't go through the concepts, and you don't, try and cross-reference and everything like that, and go to, like, when it says, for it is written, that big cross-reference chart, that's all the for is, it is written. Okay, well, up here, for it was written. And it's always, up here, going back to right here. And you'll have verses, if you look on that chart, there's several times where you see it all connecting to that same point. That's 3 and 4 callbacks from cross references from in the future coming back to that one point and touching that one point. So if you have that chart and you see it all at one point, you need to figure out what that point is, because you're seeing like 1,000 years all hammering back to that one point. It's important. Very important. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's really important if you're reading your New Testament in Galatians to understand what's going on in your Old Testament, to get the perfect idea of the concepts that Paul is laying out, because he was a genius and he had every jot and tittle memorized. He was a scholar. If you don't know, do your homework on Paul. Really, just genius.
Read with the early church fathers. Read what Irenaeus and Ignatius say about Paul. It's you look at them different when you see what they have to say about him. It's well respected man.
Put it to you this way: the person who is most well respected, like they say nowadays, he's your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. Well, he was Paul was your favorite scholar's favorite scholar. Okay,
like your pastor's favorite pastor.
Basically, he was the man. He was the man. And very zealous while he was hunting down Christians. But after it was revealed to him, God revealed to him, put all the pieces together. He started saying, "Oh, okay, hold on. Mm-hmm. I got it now." Okay, and I think one of the reasons to show his glory and to show how he could turn, Saul around and make him Paul. 1, but 2, Paul may have been the only guy that could have understood it and communicated it properly.
There's a chance that's
the more you learn about Paul and see what they were saying about him and everything. I lean more to that. It's for the glory of God and that turnaround and everything else. I almost wonder if Paul was being sent to kill the Christians because the other side knew that Paul would be a huge asset and could almost divine it and see it coming, that, oh man, we got to really destroy this guy spiritually. We got to send him after the Christians. We have to put this on his heart to go and do this. And God said, no. Stop it. You're down. Wow. You're not going to see nothing. You're going to have to depend on me. Listen. The reason I think it was Paul is probably Paul was the only one that communicated the way.
No, you have a solid point there. When you look at the way that he communicates it, if you just look at what he wrote, you have in Acts when he preaches on Mars Hill, he's using words like Tartarus. He's talking about the poets of the Greeks. He's speaking to them in their language.
He was a Roman citizen too. He was a Roman citizen, so he could travel freely and had extra rights. He spoke he spoke all the languages, so we could communicate. He understood things like Tartarus, which is Greek, what we call mythology, but the Greek belief system. He understood that. Great point. That's a great point. Yeah, really good point.
And,
Roman citizen, understood the pantheons of Rome and Greece and all that. Understood the afterlife and Tartarus and the stories of the Titans and how it related to what was actually in the Hebraic text.
Yes,
I mean, Paul's cool, man. Paul there's a reason God selected him, and it's a lot of things. And I mean, he's a genius, absolute genius.
And just knew how to relate to the
too long, because a lot of people don't like Paul.
I know,
And I used to kind of have those feelings myself, especially digging into the Old Testament and the law myself and trying to follow after God. But the more you go, the more you get wise, and it's like, hold on, no. Paul is the man.
He's it. He's got it going on, man.
Yeah.
Wow, what an excellent show, man. I really enjoyed that. That was a different pace for us. It was a little more on the happy side, and that felt good. I like that. That was a good time. Yeah. And then we'll be talking about Sodom and Gomorrah real soon. So
the Sodom and Gomorrah one is going to be a good episode. A lot of times with this Genesis commentaries, we'll break certain chapters, like Genesis 14 is broken into two. Genesis 6 we're broken into two. Yeah. Certain chapters have so much in them. Tower of Babel and Nimrod we split into two, I think, didn't we?
It may have been three.
Two,
three, something like that.
Some of these chapters have so much in them that we have to split them because it'd be so long, and there's different concepts with them that are very interesting. You know what I mean? And you do one full concept, do the other one full concept, and they tie together. That's how we like to do it if it's something like that. Right. And that's probably what we'll do with Sodom and Gomorrah in chapter 19 coming up. Now we have another video that's going to be coming up here pretty soon. Me and Bronson are working on it. I'd also like to call back to some of our earlier viewers. We had talked about doing a documentary, and that documentary we were filming in Asheville, North Carolina. And I don't know if I'm pretty sure you've heard the hurricane came through. So we got some preliminary footage and talked to a couple people. Went around and got some footage and pictures and stuff like that. Went to some sites and was putting it together. Then the hurricane came through, so we're trying to get back to that. So if you guys heard us talking about that has not been forgotten, and we do have the footage. It's just the hurricane and things are still a little bit messy over there, and it's very busy during the holidays, even when it's not like that. So it's a slow pace, but we're getting back to it. And as soon as we can, we're going to get back out there. So that's still coming. I didn't want to forget about that. We have some things coming up ministry wise that we're going to be calling some attention to coming soon. Me and Bronson talked today, and we've decided that we're going to do monthly missions. And what that's going to be, if you look down below, I don't know if you can highlight it or not, Bronson, but we've added the thanks button to our videos. Me and Bronson never asked for donations or memberships or, hey, buy these coffee beans or whatever. You know what I mean? We don't ever ask for nothing. Don't tithe to us. If you want to tithe to us, go tithe to the homeless. Go give it to somebody in need. Volunteer at the battered women's shelter. Give it to orphans. Give it to somebody else. Okay, that's what we always say. It's not about money. It's about what's doing right for the kingdom. But we do have things that we would like to do. So, and things that we could do to advance the kingdom. We have a young man that's going to come on and talk to us about his program that he's working with Loaves and Fishes. We have a few things that we want to do, but the main thing is it's going to be a monthly mission. So we're going to have a special announcement video that'll come out soon. So we'll talk about our monthly mission and what we want to accomplish. And if it's something that you think is a good cause and won't hurt your pockets, you have it to spare, you want to invest into the kingdom, believe in the cause, hit the thanks button, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to have a whole monthly mission. And if you do it now for this video, we're going to put it towards our monthly mission coming up. So watch for the special announcement video. Where every month we're going to have a monthly mission to where we're going to do a charity or some kind of outreach program or something for the kingdom. We may have months to where we say, hey, we want to do this on the channel. We got to hit this or whatever, something like that. But for the most part, it'll be outreach, something for the kingdom, something that where we can, we'll put our own money where the mouth is too on that. Everything you see on this channel, we've all, come out of pocket for. So we're going to, put the money where our mouth is, do some really good work in the community, support some good causes, support some good outreaches. So we're going to try and start lining up interviews. We've been trying to get interviews with some names in the Christian community, some names of some people around here we know that have interesting stories and backgrounds. So we're trying to do a few new things and bring some people in to tell their stories, bring people in that are involved in the community and good causes in the community, and try and put some support behind that. We may be having some sponsors here pretty soon, but they will always be Christian sponsors and stuff like that. So there's going to be some changes around here. So within the next week or so, be looking for a special announcement video from us to where we're going to be talking about our monthly mission. Okay. And some other announcements that's coming with that too. We just got to iron that out. I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse here, but be looking for the monthly mission announcements. There'll be some cool. There's going to be some cool stories coming with that, some cool videos coming with that, and we'll be also getting some film and stuff, so you'll be able to see what the return on your investment is. It's not just going to sit in somebody's bank account. It's going out there to feed the homeless. It's going out there to house people. It's going out there for Christian outreaches to orphanages. It's going out there for all kinds of stuff that we've been brainstorming about stuff for a long time. So we'll lay that all out there and put a spotlight on our monthly mission coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for our other Genesis commentaries, and for some of our far out videos too. I think we got a special one coming up here pretty shortly.
Yeah, man, big things happening. It's a lot of fun. We really enjoy to actually do this stuff, man. We don't just like to just talk about it. We like to do it, and we only partner up with people that live the same way. We want to see people that don't talk about it, they do it, and they get the work done. Those are that's the people we get down with, and I think our audience is the same way. You and I, we're both the type of people that you want something done, you do it yourself. We don't sit around and wait for the government to do it or for some organization who we're gonna do it ourselves. You know what I mean? And if you're that way, if you're a fan of Ancient Echoes, you just happen to like this channel, you like what Austin and I stand for and what we do, we appreciate every single one of you. And if you feel led to do so, please don't put you or your family in any type of bad spot or whatever. But if you feel led, you feel God tugging on your heart to hit that thanks button, you'll know that it's going to people that actually get the work done, because that's the only type of people me and Austin are going to partner up with. People that are actually getting out there getting the work done, people that are actually Christians, people that have a heart for this stuff and really want to change the world for Christ the best they can and make their mark in their own way, whether it's big or small or in between. It's all about doing whatever you can do in your own spot. That's what me and Bros always talk about. You have channels, talk about it talk about things on your channel, spread the word of God on your channel. Do what you can, no matter how big or how small it is. All you can do is what you can do where you're at right now. So that's right. That's right.
God will just I think that's all God can ask for you. Is you just to give it all you can where you're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's what me and Bros are going to do, and we encourage you to do the same thing. And if you guys want to join us on the journey and help us out the journey, but if you guys want to partner up with us, or you feel led to do that, pray about it and hit the thanks, give one of the thanks, and whatever you can spare will help, and we will put it to good use for the kingdom, and we'll show you what's going on. But look out for the monthly mission videos, because we're going to do it every month, and I think that's going to bring a lot of good positive change to communities around us and to maybe communities around you. We can find people on the national level. Please send them to our email, message us on X, inboxes on X, whatever. Get them to us. Guys that are partnered up or creating programs to help out, Christian programs and stuff like that. Let's shine a light on them, and let's help them out financially as much as we can. suggestions are definitely welcome. Wherever we can go and really help people, even if it's on a small level, we can donate $250 a month, or get some single person tents for the homeless. Coats. It's cold out there, man. It's not so cold where we're at, but you go up north and northwest, northeast. It's cold. It's really cold right now. These guys need jackets. They may have made terrible decisions, but we've all made terrible decisions. Sometimes it just goes for the worst for people. So let's try and help out the most we can and make our mark here for the Lord.
That's right, man. And I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to do it with you, and I'm excited to do it with you guys. So we'll be looking forward to that. I'm excited to see what comes from it, man. And we'll be catching up with that next week when we hang out with you guys, and when you'll see that video and all of our plans for the future. So awesome, man. What a wonderful show. That was a lot of fun.
I had a really good time. Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. That was a lot lighter than the last video we did.
Last video I was trying not to cry, bro. So I'm glad
it was pretty dark. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love each and every one of you, and we will see you all next time on Ancient Echoes.